Hey guys, and welcome to a showdown between the might of Captain Morgan and his brave herd of the Beastmen up against Chad Forrick, aka Grombrindle, bringing his beloved Dwarfs. And I really wanted to showcase this battle today because this has become one of the worst matchups in the entire game for Dwarfs. It is so hard to take down the Beastmen. They have Bestigors, Chariot Spam, Torx the Brass Bull, a bucket ton of magic and AP damage that they can bring to the table, which can be quite effective up against the Dwarfs. And I think the way Grombrindle has played this today is how you attempt at least to deal with the Beastmen and may become quite meta into the future. But let's look through the Beastmen build to start with. We have Gore Herds dotted all the way along, cheap, cheerful, happy to be here, and try to flank in behind the enemy, get through those little gaps in their battle line and shut down the range contingent that the Dwarfs do indeed bring. Up in the skies, we have triple harpies as well, once again, to harass the enemy back line. And then a bucket ton, triple I believe, Bestigor herds with their armor-piercing great axes, bringing them to the fray. We do have triple Razorgore herds as well on the left-hand side, which may seem surprising to start with, but they have pretty decent armor-piercing and, once again, are anti-infantry. And there's a real swarm approach coming in from the Beastmen, with one or two heavy hitters as well, one of which is Torx the Brass Bull, who's currently put his axe down to give his neck a little scratch. He needs to get a scarf to cover up that big hole, but he's coming in with all the goodies, and he can outduel the majority of the Dowie Lords, though Forrick will give him a run for his money if he has brought his flame-resistant armor. We have a Brave Shaman of Wilds as well coming in. Oh, let's have a little look. This looks like some interesting spells. We have Traitor King and Devolve. It's going to be quite interesting to see how these perform here today up against the tightly compact dwarf little almost eye formation down here. As you can see, the little pupil in the middle is going to be the double cannon. So 2 cannons as well as some Iron Drake Trollhammer torpedoes. All of them are going to be looking to try to threaten chariots where possible. We have 1 unit of Iron Drakes in the front and triple Iron Breakers, one of which is the Norgrenlings Iron Breakers themselves. The Regiment Renown looking even more fabulous than the basic Dwarf Iron Breakers, though they themselves also look pretty badass. We have Dwarf Warriors and Longbeards holding down the back, and 1 unit of Dragonback Slayers as well in the central pocket here. And we have Forrick Iron Brow coming in with some pretty useful items and abilities. The Rune Armor gives not only armor resistance to himself, I believe, but also affected allies in range. Increasing their armor and flame resistance is going to be very nice up against Torx. We have Master of the Ancient Lore amongst us, Rune of Doom, Rune of Break-In, as well as Rune of Speed. No Rune of Slow, which is quite interesting. Locus of Power, though, will be brought to the battle today. And I think, personally, this is how you play Dwarfs up against Beastmen. You can try to go as wide as possible and do the old onion strategy, but this is one of the few matchups where that probably isn't the optimal play because chariots will simply run you down. Now, there is actually no chariots today, but there is still plenty of large creatures such as Torx, Razorgores, and Harpies who can push into the back line, which certainly is very scary indeed. So the cannons are going to have to improvise a little bit with no chariots to go after. Instead, they're focusing down the Bestigor herds as well as the Razorgores. 2 pretty good targets. One, the Bestigors, you want to get rid of them before they meet your battle line, but likewise Razorgore herds can rampage, so you can force them into pretty bad engagements. As you can see, the Beastmen are going to start to swarm. Dwarf player carrying a little bit here on the back of the map, but again, taking the high ground, it is the Dwarvish way. They do not have access to kind of fast mobile units, so fighting like this, I think, is the answer. Razorgore's going for a little bait charge in, trying to bait out those blasting charges, but you can see Grombrindle is an experienced player, not going to waste any blasting charges on the Razorgores, who do unfortunately rampage directly into the Iron Breakers. Yes, they have AP, yes, they have anti-infantry, but only 24 melee attack isn't going to be enough to break through that really solid melee defense of the Iron Breakers of 79. Gore herds are now getting eviscerated on the approach by the Ironbreaker blasting charges. Luckily, they have a bit of a spread out formation, so they won't be taking too much scary damage. However, we can see a load of flame attacks coming down on the Gore herds, doing some really juicy work. In the back line, though, Harpies have started to swarm down on the cannons, and once one is distracted, the other Harpies will swoop down onto the second cannon, looking to shut it down. And the Iron Drakes have turned to unleash a torrent of flame upon the Harpies. That discouragement of burnt effect can be really quite tasty. We're going to see a big Traitor King come down, catching the majority, if not the entirety, of the Dwarvish build. And that is one problem going for builds like this, is that you're very susceptible to area of effect spells, which are very popular at the moment. One cannon looks to be nearly going down, somehow still clinging on for dear life, as the Gore herds do start to overwhelm the Dwarf Warriors. Torx the Brass Bull comes in and punts that cannon crew quite a long distance away. Razorgore herds will be able to dish out the damage onto the Longbeards, but with a Rune of Doom popped, they can dish damage straight back. Gore herds eventually dragging their way through the Dwarvish warriors here. Razorgores continue to push through, driving after those Ironbreakers, who really are the MVP in this matchup. Their added melee defense means they are super tanky against the majority of the Beastmen forces, who tend to fight with numbers rather than elite skill. Harpies in the back, once again, going to be trying to aim for those cannons to shut them down, but there are Dragonback Slayers here. Good play by the Beastmen player, bringing in those Gore herds to drag down the Dragonbacks, but it is going to be a little bit too little too late for those Harpies at least. And once again, Torx is going after Thoric Ironbrow, but with his resistance to that flame damage, Torx isn't having too much luck at the moment. Razorgore herds actually been dragged down here by Longbeards, as they're not being supported by Gore herds, who are still actually doing a pretty decent job up against Dwarf Warriors. Good to see, really chewing their way through the enemy. Grey Shaman is on approach once more. I'm sure he has plenty of Winds of Magic left in the tank. Harpies once again swooping down, this time onto the Iron Drakes. A good target, though they're not going to do much damage to them. They will stop them firing, and they've been causing quite a lot of havoc amongst this Beastmen build. Yeah, another Traitor King does go down, doing some pretty solid damage across the board and slowing the Dwarvish Warriors even more than they already are. Razorgores are going to start driving in now with the resurgent Bestigor herds, and it looks like that the Iron Drakes are finally open and they should be able to shut them down rather effectively. Razorgore piggies hunting down the Ironbreakers though, going ram straight into them, rampaging and trying their best. But a lot of the Bestigors are starting to be dragged down here by the Ironbreakers, which is really quite bad news for the Bestigors. Again, only 40 melee attack, I think, on these guys, and that is buffed up at the moment, I believe, by Bestial Surge. It's just so tough to take down the Ironbreakers. Large creatures as well tend to pack a massive punch, but have dreadful melee attacks to kind of counteract that, and that's why Ironbreakers, I think, are the way forward in this build. Taurus of Brass Bull still going toe-to-toe with the Ironbrow, has managed to do some considerable damage, but those Iron Drakes are once again back online, as the Beastmen horde seem to be running a little bit out of steam. Though we still have Razorgores and Gore herds diving into the back line, Torx Brass Bull just trying to bounce around, dish out the damage, help out his Bestigors where possible, who are actually starting to struggle. Only 15 kills on them, and they are nearly spent. The British Shaman of Wilds has had to engage in hand-to-hand combat just to try and assist his homies out where possible. He's up to 215 kills. Oh yeah, that's some very, very powerful magical damage for you. Harpies are swooping down on top of the Iron Drakes, going to be hopefully finishing them off with the Brave Shaman. If we have one more spell in the tank, maybe there's hope yet, because the Bestigors have returned to the fray, as have the Razorgores, although it looks like it is indeed going to be a Rune of Speed going down instead. The Brave Shaman barely clinging on to life at the moment. Likewise, the Dwarfs are looking so ragged and tattered, both armies, down to their bare bones. If we have one more Overcast spell coming in by the Brave Shaman, perhaps there is hope yet. But there's 38 Ironbreakers here, and Norgron Ironbreakers still standing strong. These Bestigors have been fighting for ages, still only on 15 kills. The Ironbreakers, however, on 62, up to 1,200 damage value. Torx the Brass Bull is currently dueling Thoric Ironbrow once more, but he needs to push through onto these Trollhammer torpedoes. He is trying to. He's doing his big burst attack as well to try to free himself up. Brave Shaman currently vibing as his forces do retreat around them. The balance power has gone very heavily here in the Dwarvish favour. We can see an Overcast. Oh no, not an Overcast. A basic spell, but he gets the miscast because he's so close to Thoric. A Devolve does go down, lowering that melee attack of Thoric, but it does not matter as the Beastmen hordes flee for their lives, and it shall be a mighty victory for Dowie Kind and a valiant defeat for the Beastmen. Apologies about the coughing there, guys. I've been recording all day, so my voice may be a little bit hoarse there. Well played, though, to Captain Morgan as well as Chad Thoric, aka Grom Brindle. An absolutely fantastic game, which really could have gone either way, but this Dwarvish build is a masterclass. Ironbreakers, Ironbreakers, Ironbreakers. That is the answer to how you defeat Beastmen with Dwarfs. It is still a really rough matchup. Cam Morgan at the moment as well, I believe, was telling me the other day he doesn't really like bringing chariots at the moment because they are quite bugged. But even when they're not bugged, they're going to be very good up against the Dwarfs. However, with two cannons, with Trollhammer torpedo support, as well as the Slayers in a nice tight box, the chariots are going to struggle to get in there. But that, of course, does open up a bucket ton of other problems, like this Bray Shaman. Oh my god, 3,525 damage value, 19k damage dealt, 218 kills on the Bray Shaman there. That is absolutely disgusting. Torx the Brass Bull, 1,190 damage value on him, 27 kills. Really impressive work there. Now, the Gauls across the board didn't perform too terribly. Actually managed to force away into the back line. Besticles, though, really struggled. And again, that lack of melee attack allows the Ironbreakers just to hold the line. This unit was fighting them, the Regiment Renown unit, all game for so long, and only 15 kills. It is a very pathetic work by them. Harpies and Razor Gauls really did suffer, unfortunately, trying to get in there and dish out the damage, but there wasn't too much range to take down, just the 4 units, and quite a lot of Dwarfs guarding it, and that was one of the big problems. We'll go through the Dwarf damage dealt and damage value in just a second, but if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to leave it a big fat thumbs up, subscribe for more Warhammer content into the future, as well as commenting down below on what you enjoyed. What was your MVP? What do you think of this Dwarvish build? And yeah, feel free just to yell quack in support. I really do appreciate all the comments. They do keep me going. There are links down below in the description to my Patreon if you would like to support the channel, as well as to my Discord. If, like Captain Morgan, you would like to see your replays up on the channel, you can submit them to me there. You can also get involved in tournaments and events that I host. By the way, on to the Dwarfs now. Thoric Ironbrow, with that flame resistance, really helped out quite a lot against Taurox. Again, 996 damage of value. 19 kills isn't too shabby, I suppose, for more of a support character. Dwarf Warriors did really solid across the board, likewise did the Longbeards, holding back bucket tons of enemy. The Ironbreakers are where it shines though, 101 kills, over 11,000 damage dealt, 1,237 damage value, 1,126 on this second unit and 98 kills, 1,310 and 70 kills on the Regiment of Renown. Absolutely disgusting work by the triple Ironbreakers. Dragonback Slayers, 1,300 damage value, certainly fantastic themselves, dealing with a lot of the Razor Gauls, Harpies and Taurox every time he did pressure in. The basic unit of Iron Drakes as well, 61 kills is really quite good, just shy of 1,200 damage value. That's some tasty damage indeed, but being out-traded by the Trollhammer Torpedoes with 1,700 damage value. A lot of that, though, did come in with the assassination attempt at the end on Taurox the Brass Bull. As for the cannons, not great damage value on these bad boys today, 130, 566. But again, they're designed to take down enemy chariots, particularly the Tuskor chariots. The units are a lot easier to hit and harder to dodge than if you're using a single entity chariot. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Until next time, peace, peace. And as always, stay awesome.